Hello and welcome all. This video we shall cover class 11th Hornbill book second chapter. We are not afraid to die if we can all be together. Before we go on to the chapter, let me ask you one question. Why do people undertake adventures? This is a question which you should think of before reading the chapter. Now we move on to the chapter and let's try to find out the answer, that why do people undertake adventure even after knowing that it may be risky, it may be dangerous. Then also people would undertake adventure, and one such adventure has been undertaken by the protagonist of the story, a 37-year-old businessman who was a businessman, and he has always dreamt to duplicate the round the world voyage that was made by Captain James Cook. And not alone, he took his family with him on this trip voyage, that is going on the sea, maybe by boat or ship. And he wanted to duplicate that Captain James Cook journey that he has undertaken some 200 years ago. And to do this, he has made all the preparation. He has been training hard for the last 16 years or so, has been honing the seafaring skills in the British waters to get acquainted, to get used to all the rough weather, all the difficulties that may come their way. He got a professional boat to be built, the Wave Walker. The Wave Walker was the boat, 23-meter and 30-ton wooden hulled beauty, as he called it. It was professionally built, and he has spent months and months to check this boat in roughest weather that he could find. In his family, his wife Mary, then his son Jonathan, who was 6 years old, daughter Suzanne, who was 7-year-old. So all these 4 people, the businessman himself, his wife Mary, his son Jonathan, his daughter Suzanne. So as they had planned, the first phase of their journey, that is nearly 1,05,000 kilometers, that passed pleasantly. There were no hiccups, there was no trouble. It went on smoothly as they have expected. And this was from the west coast of Africa to the Cape Town. This journey was smooth from the west coast of Africa to the Cape Town. They have started from Plymouth, England in 1976. Their journey began in 1976 from Plymouth, England, and they reached Cape Town as the first leg of their journey, which went on smoothly. But now they had to go into one of the roughest and the toughest weather and sea, that is Southern Indian Ocean. And to help them to get the specialized services, he hired 2 specialist people, professionals, American Larry Vigil and one Swiss Herb Segler. So now they were ready to face one of the roughest seas, that is the Southern Indian Ocean. As they began their journey, the second day onwards, the strong winds, the strong gales were going around. The protagonist says that the gales did not worry him. The speed of the wind did not worry him. The sign of worry was the height of the waves, as high as 15 meters. That was nearly till their main mast. Mast is the vertical structure that helps the boat to sail. December 25, that is the date. Despite difficult weather, they had a good Christmas, and they had nearly covered 3,500 kilometers east of Cape Town. Things were going on fine till here. And they expected the weather to change, to become little better, and weather did change, but for the worse. It became worse. It was on January 2nd. The waves were huge, gigantic waves were there, and it was really a sign of worry. And one such wave was right up straight over their boat. This protagonist of the story, He believed it that the black clouds have hovered over their boat. But then he realized it was not black cloud, it was the wave. So you can imagine the size of the wave, which was as huge as a cloud. And such a huge wave, it just hit their boat. The deck was hit by the deck was hit by this huge gigantic wave. And obviously, when such a huge wave hits, it has disastrous effect on the boat. The protagonist, this businessman, he was thrown out of the boat. But before the huge wave hit the boat, they had already started their life raft drill. They have attached the lifelines, down jacket, oil skins, the life jackets, and so on. But when this protagonist was thrown overboard, he felt at peace. His head was hit so hard that he accepted his death and he started sinking. But as he started drowning, but as he has already put on that life jacket, somehow his head popped out of the water, and he see the wave walker was nearly capsizing. It was overturned. Then another wave came and hit the wave walker. Then it was made to be straight, and somehow he managed to climb up and get back into the boat. But before he could go into that, he realized that his left rib cage was broken, his mouth filled with blood, his teeth broken, and then also he knew he has to do something to protect his family, to protect the wave walker, and to protect everyone else on board. So now, as the narrator was back on board, he started giving instructions. He asked his wife Mary to go and take charge of the wheel, to control the wheel, whereas Larry and Herb, the specialist he has hired, were busy pumping the water that was coming in. They were working like madmen. He himself went there and found out whatever he could, the hammer, the screws, and the canvas, whatever he could find. But before that, he just crawled to the children cabin, and where he reached his children and saw that the daughter Suzanne, she has a big bump on her head. She was injured. The children were too injured there. But he hardly had any time to talk to his children or to console the children or to talk about their injuries, and because he has to do some repairs. Somehow then he managed to stretch the canvas and to stop the inflow of the water. Some water was deflected back. Then there were many more new problems. The electric pump was short circuited because of the debris that was coming along with the water. The pumps got choked, the pumps got blocked. Luckily there was a spare pump, electric pump, and he connected that spare pump and it worked. And they kept on pumping the water out of the boat. Otherwise the boat would have capsized any moment. Then he tried to contact the radio, the Mayday calls. Mayday call means the calls you make in emergency. These people, the voyagers, they make emergency calls, that is called Mayday calls. So he made this Mayday calls for asking for help, but they were in such a remote place that their calls were not answered. There was nobody to listen to their call or to come to their rescue. There, on the other hand, Suzanne's head had swollen alarmingly. She also had a cut on her arm. So when this narrator asked her, "Why did not you inform me about this injury?" She said, "I did not want to worry you when you were trying so hard to save us. Don't worry about." That means the girl said, "Don't worry about these injuries. You keep on doing the work that you are doing. That is, you are trying to protect all of us." This was all happened on January 2nd. Next day, January 3rd, the pumps had somehow managed to control the inflow of the water, but still there was some leakage of the water that was coming in. The water inflow kept on going, kept on coming. The narrator found that the main rib frame that was holding the boat from the bottom has been smashed badly. Only it was just few cupboards, some wooden partition that was holding up the boat. Somehow they managed to pump out the water by the January 3rd, and then they have nearly survived for 15 hours since that gigantic wave hit them. And now there was no communication. Somehow they have to find out a place of safety. Certainly they cannot reach Australia in this condition. By the condition of the boat cannot hold them for long hours. So now he had to do always the manual calculation. When he did this manual calculation through charts and calculated the distance and everything, he found that there are two small islands, a few hundred kilometers of the east. One of them was Isle Amsterdam. It was a French scientific base, and that was the nearest where they could reach. But it was like in this huge ocean, to find a small island, it was like pinpricks in the vast ocean. Means you are trying to search a needle in the ocean, because with naked eyes certainly you cannot see this small island. If it will take just a matter of few seconds before you miss the island, if you could not spot it, if you could not find it, and if your calculations are right, then only you are going to reach. By searching by the eyes, you certainly cannot spot the island. It was such a difficult situation for them. Now January 4, nearly 36 hours of their survival of that gigantic wave. They managed to survive for 36 hours after that gigantic wave hit them. And by the evening, once again at nearly 4 pm on 4th January, again the weather deteriorated. The black clouds hovered once again over them. And when this narrator, he decided to reach to his children when the water was under control, water level was under control. They had something to eat. Some biscuits were left, some dry food was left. So they ate something. In 2 days they have eaten something, and he reached his children to talk to them. The son Jonathan, he asked, "Daddy, are we going to die?" So narrator tried to assure him, but then he said, "Don't worry, Daddy. We are not afraid of dying if we can all be together. You and Mummy, Sue and I. If four of us are together, we are not afraid to die." These words had such a positive impact on the author that he decided, whatever may be, I will go, I will survive, I will protect my family at any cost. I could find no words with which to respond. That's what the words he used. He could not respond to his child, the courage that the child has shown. One more such thing happened when evening, he and his wife, the narrator and his wife Mary, sitting together. Suzanne came in holding a card in her hand. She had made a card in her hand, and she handed over the card to the parents, her parents, mother and father. Then January 6, the next day, he worked on the chart, he calculated everything, and then he finally came to a conclusion that the best he could do is trying to search for a 65-kilometer wide island in 150,000 kilometer wide ocean. Exactly, we discussed earlier, the pinpricks in vast ocean. It was like searching for a needle in an ocean. When he was thinking and calculation was going on, Suzanne came with a card in her hand. She made the caricatures of his wife Mary and himself, the narrators, and wrote, "Here are some funny people. Did they make you laugh?" And inside, a message was written. This card is given, and message was, "How I love you both." So this card is to say thank you and let's hope for the best. Somehow we had to make it. This was the message from the girl who is just 7 years old. All these things, all this optimistic approach by the children pumped narrator to work hard and filled him with the sense of positive attitude. Then he went on with double pace, double energy, and calculated and recalculated. And about 2 pm, he asked Larry to steer at 185 degrees. And he was surprised. Why is he asking to steer me at a course of 185 degrees? He said, if we are lucky, by the evening, say by 5 pm, we will find the island. The island that he has already said, 65-kilometer island. Then, with a heavy heart, I went down, climbed on my bunk, and amazingly dozed off. He was so tired that he slept off. He slept off without realizing that he is sleeping. And when he woke up, it was already 6 pm. And he was still sailing. The boat is still held up and boat was still sailing. And when he saw the time 6 pm, he thought that it's gone. Island, we have missed the island. Right at that moment, Suzanne came with a tussle head. Her head had a huge bump now. Fine, this big bump she had. And she said that, I want to give you a hug, my daddy, my dear daddy. He said, why I am getting a hug now? Because you are the best daddy in the world and the best captain. The son replied, Jonathan replied. He said, no, not anymore. He said, not anymore. I am not the best captain anymore. She said, why? You have found the island. We have found the island. It's nearby. See, we are reaching the island. He shouted with joy that he had found the island. This island, he considered it to be the most beautiful island in the world. Though it was just a rock piece, but still for him it was the most beautiful, as this island will save his family. Finally they reached the island. He said he rushed back to the deck and saw the outline of Isle Amsterdam, the island, and was so happy to find this and considered it, as I already told, the most beautiful island in the world. As he saw the island, they anchored offshore, and there were nearly 28 inhabitants, just 28 inhabitants on the island. They all cheered them as they reached the island. He kept thinking of Larry and Herbie, who kept pumping the water, who helped him. He kept thinking of his wife Mary, who controlled the wheel, who was all the way with him. He thought of his children, 6 and 7 year old children, who filled him with sense of optimism all through, and that girl, Suzanne, 7 year old, who subsequently took 6 minor operation to remove that blood clot, that bump she had on her head. Thought of a boy, 6 year old, who was not afraid to die if the family is together. So that's how the optimism that he had since very beginning, from the professionals he had from Larry and Herbie, his wife Mary, and overall the young children, Suzanne and Jonathan. He could overcome this disastrous situation and win over this situation. And this brings us to the end of this chapter. Do read the chapter for better understanding. I hope you would understand everything. See you again with next video, with next chapter, some other time. Till then, take care. Goodbye.